My name is Laura, and I'm 25 years old. After I graduated from my junior college, I got a job at the department store where I work now. I met my husband Adam at that department store. At the time I started working there, Adam was working at the head office and he was the trainer for the new staff. My first impression of him was that he was quite serious and a strict person. He always kept a very strict eye on the new staffs, and whenever Adam passed by in front of me, I always felt nervous around him. However, when it came to work, he was indeed very good at his work at the head office, and his instructions regarding work were perfect. He was really good at teaching about the work, and I learned a lot from him. I thought he was someone I could rely on as a boss, even though we didn't seem to get along in private. So, I had no idea at the time that we would end up getting married. One day, I made a big mistake at work. I made a small mistake which resulted into a huge loss for the company. At the time, I was only 20 years old and did not have the mental capacity to endure the huge failure, and I thought the only way I could take responsibility was to quit the company. And then Adam, who was my boss, came to the rescue. Adam came over to my house, where I had taken a few days off from work due to the depression, and encouraged me on my doorstep.
You're still a new staff here, and it's only normal to worry about it. But what do you think a trainer like me is there for? It's to help you grow up and do your job freely. A person who doesn't fail at all can't be strong and can't grow. I'll take the responsibility for you, so don't be depressed forever. Show your energy again and do your job with dignity.
I broke down and cried nonstop. Thanks to these words from Adam, I was able to return to work. From then on, Adam went from being just my boss to someone who I admired. I worked very hard to learn my job and to earn his recognition as soon as possible. Seeing me like that, he praised me in front of everyone, which motivated me even more. In about 2 years, I quickly became the ace of the department store where I worked. From then on, I spent more and more time working alone with Adam, exchanging opinions about the sales floor, and we gradually grew closer to each other. Then one day, he confessed his feelings for me, and we started to go out with each other. After 3 years of dating, he proposed to me, and we got married. I never thought that after 5 years, I would marry Adam. You never know how life will turn out. After we got married, we bought our own home with a mortgage loan. I think it was because we both worked for a major department store that we were able to get approved for the mortgage loan and purchase the house. We were thrilled with our new home and were always happy. After we were married, we continued to work for the same company, and everyone at work told us we were the perfect couple and even got jealous about it. We were, of course, happy to hear about what people had said about us. But because of this, we also didn't want to be a bad example. So, we put more effort into our work than ever before and produced good results. Then, late last year, I finally got pregnant. I enjoyed my married life with Adam, whom I love very much, but I was even happier to think that we were going to add a new family member to our family, and I felt like I was at the peak of my happiness. But there was just one problem. It was about my job. At the time, I had already been working at the department store for 5 years, and my work performance had been very good, so I had been given the job of a store manager. Since I was in a very important position at work, I wondered if it was okay for me to quit my job and concentrate on giving birth. I was worried that I was being too selfish. But my morning sickness was already getting worse, and the time limit was approaching. I discussed the matter with Adam, and as a result, we decided that it was best for me to quit work. While I felt sorry for the company, Adam would say,
I will support the company and work enough for you too. I'll make more money and you don't have to worry about anything. Just concentrate on your pregnancy.
And encouraged me like he had done before when I made the huge mistake previously. His words again lifted a weight off my shoulders, and I was able to concentrate on our soon-to-be child. Shortly thereafter, I was hospitalized. Normally, I wouldn't have needed to be hospitalized, but my early pregnancy symptoms were so severe that the doctors decided to keep me under their eyes, just in case. I spent a lot of time alone in the hospital, which was a bit lonely, but Adam came to check on me every day despite his busy schedule, which gave me a peace of mind. Then, after about 3 months in the hospital, I was able to come home. Adam, who took the trouble to get paid leave for the day, drove to pick me up, and I returned home for the first time in a long time. My home felt somewhat fresh after my long absence, but at the same time, it felt strange. I thought something was different, and after looking around the house for a while, I noticed something. For some reason, all of my personal belongings that had been in the living room had been moved to my room. I questioned Adam about it, but he only replied vaguely, as if he was uncomfortable with the situation. As I was wondering why he had that reaction, the doorbell suddenly rang. Who could it be at a time like this? As I opened the door, I saw my mother-in-law, Christine. I wondered why she was here at a time like this. I had just gotten out of the hospital, and I wanted to spend at least one day alone with Adam. But I couldn't just turn her away. After I opened the front door, Christine took off her shoes and went into the living room as if it was her own house, without even greeting me. Then, Christine finally notices me as she saw me coming back from the front door and said, "Oh, what are you doing out of the hospital? I didn't hear that you came back." "Oh, I'm sorry, Christine. I'm sorry it's taken me so long to inform you. I was discharged from the hospital." Christine gave me a bored look and said, "You could have stayed in the hospital longer," and began to relax in the living room. I got closer to Adam and asked, "What is she doing here?" Adam didn't seem to understand why I was being confused and simply replied,
"Oh, my mother has been coming home a lot lately."
For my part, I wanted to ask him why Christine was coming over and relaxing as if it was her house. I decided to ask Christine directly because Adam was too thick. Christine, I just got out of the hospital, so I'd like to spend at least today with Adam." "Excuse me? I just came here and you want me to leave now? You talk as if this is your own home." I was a little irritated because that's right. It's my house, and it's Adam and I's house that we both bought together. Christine must have seen me frown for a moment because she began to say, "What's with that look? This is your house, but it's also our house as well. Do you know that?" What do you mean?" "Ugh, how can you be so ignorant? It was purchased by my son, who is in my family, which means it's ours too. Now, do you understand?" What she was implying was nonsense that I wanted to butt in and say that I didn't know what she was talking about for a minute. But when I tried to argue back, my husband interrupted and said,
"Don't complain to my mother too much. She's the one who took care of everything around the house while you were in the hospital,"
and began to put the blame on me. I finally decided not to say anything back to him, even though I wasn't really happy with what they said. I didn't want to get sick again and be readmitted to the hospital after having been discharged, and I thought it was true that Christine was indeed supporting Adam while I was gone. However, every day after that, Christine came to our house to do chores. I didn't like it, but I decided not to say anything because by the time I was in my last month of pregnancy, I would be hospitalized again and would have to leave the housework to Christine. It was quite stressful to have her visit so often, but finally, at the beginning of my last month, I was free from this life. One day, when I was preparing for hospitalization, Christine arrived home earlier than usual. I opened the front door to find a surprising sight. I saw Christine, and behind her was a car full of luggages. "Oh, what are all these luggages for, Christine?" Christine replied in a tiresome manner and said, "Of course, it's our luggages to move in here." I immediately ran to Adam in the living room and said, "What is the meaning of this? I didn't hear anything about it," and asked him in a strong tone of voice.
"Oh, well, that's just the way it is. My mom and the family are moving in here."
Huh? How come I didn't hear anything about this until now? I mean, did you just say your mom and the family? Please don't tell me that there's someone else moving in. Then Christine butts into the conversation. "My eldest daughter's family of 3 and I are all moving in here and living together. It's already decided, so don't make a hassle about it." My husband agreed with Christine and strictly tells me,
"That's the way it is, so don't disobey my mother."
But there was no way I could be convinced by that. Trembling, I asked Adam, "Why did you decide such an important matter all on your own?" Once again, Christine intervened and said, "I told you the other day. It's our son's house and it's also our family's house," and shouted at me. At this point, I was getting very irritated and said, "Please be quiet, Christine. I am asking my husband." Christine probably didn't think I was going to talk back to her, so she became silent for a while. And I took the opportunity to talk to my husband. "What do you think you're doing for all of them to move in with us? We're even going to have a baby next month. You said this house is for us to live happily as a family, didn't you?" My husband's response to my question was unbelievable.
"What's wrong with them moving in? My mother and sister are my family. There should be no problem living together here. There's more people and it's rather lively and fun, isn't it?"
You are the only one to think that it's fun because you're related by blood with your mother and sister. But for me, I'm not related by blood with them, and it's like 4 strangers suddenly came to my house all at once. How am I supposed to think that this is fun?
"Oh my God, shut up. This is my house. What's so wrong of me to have my own family over to my house?"
I can't believe that you're saying this. Remember, you and I bought this place together, you know? You can't be the only one to decide about these things. In the end, time passed with neither of us giving in. I was aware that Adam was family-oriented, but this was beyond what I had expected. This was the first time I realized that Adam was a mama's boy to an unbelievable degree. If he was like this even before our child was born, I lost all confidence in my ability to go on being married to him as a family. I made up my mind right then and there and said this to Adam. All right. If you want to live with your mother and your sister and her family, I won't say anything more about it. But in return, I'll leave. With that, I went out and hurried to the town office to pick up the divorce papers. I returned home, stood in front of Adam once again, and confronted him with the divorce papers. I can't do this with you anymore. Let's get a divorce. Adam was surprised that I requested for a divorce since he didn't expect that out from me. He stood frozen in front of the divorce papers for a few seconds, and then, as if in a flash of realization, he opened his mouth and said this.
What are you going to do when we get divorced? How are you going to support your child if you don't even have a job?
Adam looked at me with a smug look on his face as if he had said something satisfying for him. His smug face looked just like Christine's, which made me even more angry. Just sign the divorce papers. My husband snickered at my anger and signed the divorce papers.
Are you sure? Now we're in a position to get a divorce, but it's you who's going to be in big trouble, right?
Great, he finally signed it. Now, it's my turn to fight back from here. Hey, aren't you forgetting something important? My father runs an apartment rental business.
Oh!
That means I don't have to worry about getting a place to live. Plus, I'll get child support from you. Oh, and I almost forgot. If you and your family are going to continue to live in this house, you have to pay me half of the value of this house.
What?
My husband seemed to finally realize the situation he was in. His face turned pale as he looked at me. Well, I guess we won't ever see each other again, but take care. I'll be contacting you through my lawyer from now on. Adam was in shock that he slumped down on the spot. Christine, who was listening to our conversation, must have understood that Adam had to pay a large sum of money. She stood frozen with a moving package in each hand. I ignored them both and left the house. After that, it was just a matter of time. We went through the divorce with property division and so on. My father let me live in one of his spare rooms, a slightly nicer, more expensive one, for the sake of his own child and his grandchild. And thanks to the money I got from the divorce, I didn't have to work after the baby was born, which allowed me to spend plenty of time with my child. The baby was so sweet, and I enjoyed being with him every day. By the way, about Adam, I heard an interesting story from a colleague from my department store days. I heard that Adam has been living in that house with Christine and his sister and her family since then, but supposedly his sister's children are noisy, Christine and his sister are spending the money away, and they are running out of money, which causes constant stress to him, and he is also exhausted at work and is pretty depressed all the time. As a result, he started making a lot of mistakes at work and was finally labeled as a useless person and sent to a department where there was little work to be done. Furthermore, the salary at the new department is lower than the old one, making his life even more difficult and causing him to suffer mentally. This is what he deserves. On the other hand, after 2 years of spending plenty of time with my child, I was able to get a job at another major department store because of my skills from the previous work experience. The pay is about the same as my old job, but I can finish work earlier in the evening so I can drop off and pick up my child without any problems. I am now working hard and doing my best to raise my loving child. I would like to praise myself for deciding to divorce my ex-husband at that time because I decided that I could raise my child on my own without him. Thank you for watching until the end. please subscribe to our channel. See you in our next video.